Are you tired of all the baloney? Well, you know what you need. Straight talk with Jack Graham. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now, here is Jack Graham.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Jack Graham and another video today. Thank you for taking some time and checking things out here. Some interesting stuff today. It's a number of recordings. One real new and a couple kinda new and a couple kinda not new. So let's get going. You know, I got an email and a couple comments from people saying I don't pay attention to too many of the new players on the scene. And those of you who sent that, you're not wrong. And I need to be better at that. Last week we talked about the BBB Big Band. All those new guys in LA, the new studio guys in LA. Most of which I haven't heard of, but I think they're the new generation of the young studio jazz players. I'll tell you, these kids come out of school and they play great, and yeah, it's good to see that the flame will keep burning here. But at any rate, I'm going to talk about a record today that I listened to the other night. I picked up maybe about a month and a half ago, and it's called Heavy Hitters, and it's by a group led by Michael Adon on piano and on organ. I don't think he plays organ on this, if I remember right, just piano. He's known as a Hammond B3 guy and a really good pianist, too, from New York. And the great Eric Alexander on tenor, great sounding player, very inventive player. Also in the group is Jeremy Pelt. Jeremy Pelt is a trumpet player, if you don't know, who's, I bet Jeremy's probably in his 40s, maybe mid to late 40s, if I remember right. Plays in the vein of Freddie Hubbard, but yet has his own sound, very big, full sound, very inventive player in today's scene. And you know, of all one of the great trumpet players that's around right now. Vincent Herring on alto. I have a couple things that he's on and streamed a couple of things. Good player. The great Kenny Washington on drums. Kenny's just a great player. What a great drummer. Just knows what to play, when to play. Not too busy, but really fills up the time, man. A great player. And then there's, of course, Eric and Alexander Claffey on bass, who I don't know. Plays well on here, though. This is a first-class group and a first-class recording on the Cellar Live record label. And again, it's called That's What's Up. There's two records in here. Nice, quiet vinyl. Good recording, even though it's a live recording. I really like live recordings. I think they add a lot to the intensity of the band. In a club up in Vancouver, British Columbia. I have a feeling this was probably mixed in Canada, probably pressed in Canada, but whoever did it did a good job. And there's obviously 2 records, 4 sides, 3 tunes a side. Side 4 has really 3 tunes and a very quick version of a Cedar Walton tune called Bleecker Street Theme to take them out of the set. But man, it's a really great recording. It was made back 2 years ago in 23. This record, if you didn't know what label it was on, you might think it was kind of a Blue Note type of feel from back in the 60s and early 70s. That sound with the group, kind of Art Blakey-ish. You know, when you have this layout of instrumentation, they're using two saxes instead of tenor and trombone. They're using alto and tenor sax. So really the tenor sax of Eric Alexander takes the place of the trombone in Blakey's group. But it's a great record. They were all originals by Mike LeDon and a couple by Eric Alexander as well. And just a great record. I would really highly recommend this. I hope you could see that there. And it's called Heavy Hitters. That's What's Up. Great name for a group, the Heavy Hitters, and they are heavy hitters. That's What's Up on the Cellar Live label. Moving back a little bit, back into the 70s. You know, I have a lot of CTI records. I like the CTI records that Freddie Hubbard did and some of the other ones. There's quite a few that I don't particularly care for. Creed Taylor tended to be a little, I guess commercial is not on the, it's probably not a good term, but he tends to be, doesn't let the players didn't really get to stretch out too much. Chet Baker had a great record on CTI, and we'll talk about another one here in a sec. But I listened to this the other night. I hadn't heard this in a while, and man, I'll tell you what, it's recorded really well at the Van Gelder Studios, I believe, and and it was done in 1974. Paul Desmond on alto sax. Of course, you know Paul Desmond being the alto player in the Dave Brubeck quartet. And he's accompanied here by Ron Carter, Connie Kay, and Ed Bickert on guitar. Really tasty player. I think he's a New York guy. I don't know quite what he's doing now. I haven't heard his name around, but he plays really well in this, as he does in some other records I have. Ed Bickert, really nice player. But Paul Desmond, I really like the way Paul plays. You know, in a world where at the time everybody was trying to sound like Parker, Paul developed this sound, really nice, smooth, kind of a warm, laid-back alto sound. And it's really evident on this record. I'd really love to see them reissue this record. So it's available. You can buy them used on Discogs, of course, but to get a really good remastering and some quiet vinyl, it would be really good. Now, back in the day, CTI, not only were they known for their great photography on the covers, you know, the sound was really, in the 70s, was really interesting. It was really, really over-engineered sometimes. This record isn't. It's really balanced well and mixed really well and mastered really well. But this is a great Paul Desmond record. There's probably 4 or 5 CTI Paul Desmond records. I especially like this one because I just like the group. Nobody gets in the way and they really play well. This is CTI 6059 S1. Paul Desmond, pure Desmond. You know, somebody did some CTI reissues. I've got a couple of them. I wasn't overly impressed with the vinyl. It was a little noisy and, you know, it wasn't really remastered that well. I wish somebody would handpick some of these CTIs like Acoustic Sounds or somebody well respected and really remaster them great and you put them out on quiet vinyl and repackage them. I think there's a number of them that would sell really well. Let's talk about one that I bet you a lot of folks don't know about. So some of the history of CTI, they sold out to CBS, Sony in the 90s. And I know that Creed Taylor at one point tried to buy the label back, and financially he couldn't make it work. So I think that CBS Sony still owns the tapes to all this stuff. I don't know how good a condition they're in. I bet they're in pretty good condition, and a few of these could be reissued. But this, in the 90s, CTI, before they finally went away, issued, I think, 9 recordings. And this is one of them. This is CTI 9000. And it's got to be on here somewhere. 9007, the 9000 series. And you could really see Columbia Records' influence on the label. Very different CTI label. And it's dark. It's got some color in the top. But it's really kind of corporate, and it's gotten away from the CTI look of the 60s or the 70s for sure, and the 80s. But it's a great record, and it's called Studio Trist. And on this record is Chet Baker's. Chet Baker's last record on CTI. This is the gatefold. I think there's a CD of this floating around, and a couple other versions. But you've got Jim Hall on guitar, and you've got Kenny Barron on piano on some of the tracks. You've got Steve Gadd on drums. You've got George Mraz, really great bass player, worked with in New York for quite a while with a lot of different kinds of bands. And of course Hubert Laws on flute. Hubert Laws, classically trained, very great sound flute player, can play classical music, of course, and really plays well. He's a sideman on a number of CTI records as well as a leader. But this record, I bet a lot of you don't know about this. If you can find it, I would strongly suggest that I give this a 5-star review. Again, there are, I think, 3 or 4 cuts aside, and it's just really well done and well recorded. And historically, I think a record that is going to get tougher and tougher and tougher to get. There's only 9 of these done in the 90s, and I don't think any of them musically are any better than this particular record. Studio Trist. Chet Baker, Jim Hall, Hubert Laws, and a great rhythm sections. Here's a record that I'd really like to see reissued. Last video that I did, I talked about the Bud Shank record on Pacific Jazz. I picked this record up because I really like the way Roger Kellaway plays piano. Roger is an LA player. Really was very, very popular in the 70s and 80s in LA, 90s. He's done it all. He's a great jazz player, great studio player. I think he wrote the theme song to All in the Family, if I remember right. But Roger Kellaway on piano, Tom Scott. This was done in 1967, shortly after Tom Scott's first recording with the great Oliver Nelson Big Band on Impulse. We'll talk about that someday. I think I might have in a past video. But the young Tom Scott on alto and soprano, Chuck DeMonico on bass, Johnny Guerin on drums, and of course Red Mitchell on bass. But Kellaway plays really good on this, and it is a really great sounding Pacific Jazz recording. Nice and clean, pretty substantial vinyl. And again, this was done in 1967. There's a lot of Pacific Jazz around that sounds really good. Maybe not anywhere as good as that Bud Shank record I talked about in the last video or this one, but there's a lot around, and I'd love to see it get reissued. This one is in. This is one of them that was recorded really, really, really well. Pacific Jazz PJ-10122. Just really done well. Roger Kellaway, called Spirit Feel on Pacific Jazz. I think I talked about this many times. I just got a Japanese pressing of the great Clifford Brown, Max Roach. This is the recording with Delilah, Persian Thoroughfare, Blues Walk, Daoud, Joyce Spring. Jordan, what am I here for? It's a Japanese pressing that I splurged on. If anybody doesn't have this record, get it. I think it's one of Clifford's best records. This was actually the first jazz record I ever owned. Obviously not this one, but the old MRC copy, Mercury Records. This is repressed in Japan, probably. I'm guessing in the 70s, and it's a mono, and it sounds great. I just had this sitting here. I thought I'd mention it. If you don't own this record, folks, this is one that everybody needs to have. Classical. I remembered the last video to talk about a great Ravel and Debussy record. And tonight, we'll go back to a symphonic record. I think that, again, it's my favorite Brookner Symphony. And one that I think that if you're new to classical records, new to classical music, or have been around classical music for a long time, it's been recorded a lot. It's Bruckner's Brookner 8. And there's a lot of great recordings of it. I probably have, I don't even know, many recordings of it. My favorite recording that you can still get, and you gotta tell you, if you get the right place, you can find classical records at very reasonable prices. The world has not discovered the value yet, and they will, I'm sure. Every year I think they go up a little bit, but because people are discovering the collectability and the sound on these. This is on Angel. I'm not a great Angel record fan. Most of them don't sound as good as EMI or RCA or London or some of the other labels, but this is a great record. This is Brookner 8 with Eugene Joachim. He's a German, I think he's an Austrian conductor or Hungarian, somewhere down there, but this is with the Staatskapelle Dresden Orchestra. And it was not a new recording, but this was, I believe, originally on EMI. This is an older Angel recording. This vinyl is not quite as good sounding as some of the older versions of this, but interpretively, I don't think there's anything better on Brookner 8. And it's a great way to start listening to Brookner or symphonic music. It's just a great record. Also Brookner 8, I pulled this out. If you can't find that, the Von Karajan, get the one with Vienna, not the one with the Berlin. I think he does a better job on this with his later recording on Vienna. It's available. This is the CD version. I'm sure there's a vinyl version. But Brookner 8 is a good place to start listening to Brookner. It's exciting. It's very, very, very Wagner-like. It's got a lot of great brass playing. And it's just a great piece of music, and it'll hold your attention. And, of course, check out Wednesday nights, Everything Classical Music Livestream. I'll put the link below. And come join us. It's a very low-keyed discussion of classical music, classical records, a lot of stories, some great guests, and I look forward to it every week. Anyhow, thank you so much, and until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.